Okay, going to take a quick look at the different editors here inside of Moodle. To change the editor that you want to use, simply go to the Preferences, and once inside your Preferences, it'll just be under Editor Preferences. One thing to keep in mind that if you cannot locate the preferences, if you're in the default theme, you'll notice there's no drop down here for preferences. So you have to make sure that you're inside of a course that's using either the Boost or the Clean theme, and then there should be a link up here in the top right that'll get you into Preferences. But once you're inside of Preferences, the Editor Preferences here, and you can choose the rich text editor that you want to use. Really, there's only two choices: this Atto HTML editor and the TinyMCE HTML editor. Those are two I'm going to focus on. There is this plain text area if you really want to get fancy and just work directly with HTML or Markdown. Probably Markdown more in the future than some of the others, but it is available. We'll take a look at that one also. So the first one on the list here, though, is the TinyMCE editor. This is the one I'm starting to use more because I think it gives me a bit more control over my paragraph styling as well as over my image styling. Under paragraphs here, you can see I can select from a H1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I can also, when I'm editing images, if I go in here, I have some different options around the vertical spacing and horizontal spacing and border. In other words, it just adds these floats to the images. So those to me are the big improvements over the TinyMCE editor versus the other ones. The second editor to take a look at here is the Atto editor. I believe this one's supposed to be a bit more accessible. Not sure because TinyMCE is supposed to be really good with accessibility also, but maybe something worth checking out. But again, if I look at the paragraph styles under this Atto editor, it just kind of tells me heading large, medium, or small. It doesn't give me H1, H2, H3 that I can specifically select. And also for images, well, I'd have to upload an image here to show, but just take my word on it, it doesn't have the options in there for adding the padding and the border to the images. It does do a basic add of image. That's fine if you're putting the image, above the text or below the text. But if you're trying to wrap text around an image, the options for the padding inside the TinyMCE editor are a bit better. And finally, just because I mentioned the text editor, plain text editor that they have here, as you can see, you can just dump code in here and work with it this way in HTML format, or also they have this Markdown format if that's what you're working with. Say you're pulling something directly from GitHub, a .md file, you might want to just drop it in here because it's already formatted out. But just a note, you could also work with your HTML source in either the Atto or the TinyMCE editor simply by jumping in here and looking for this HTML icon, and it looks like the less than, greater than symbols. Click on that, you can access all your code there. And same with the TinyMCE, should be a similar looking icon. Right here it is, greater than, less than, edit HTML source. And again, it just pops it up. None of the editors really format the code really well, so it's really only need to come in here and add in some special customizations. But that's just a quick look at the different editors. Again, you come into your preferences, your editor preferences, and you can select it here. I'm going with the TinyMCE editor for now because I think it gives me a little bit more clear options when I'm working with the items on the page.